Okay, hello everybody and welcome. Here we are broadcasting live from Huddle Share Space. We are in day two of, what is it, stage two opening, Chaim, Jerry? Stage two, we back to stage two?
I think we're close to opening wide open.
So we're allowed to have people in a room together. Before it was 5 people in a room. We have 6 people here. We have Takor and his team of video producers. We have my good friend Jerry Hogenhout is here. I'm David Grossman. And we have Chaim. Chaim's last name again is Carpel. And Chaim is from Germ Capital Inc. We're going to talk to Chaim about industrial REITs. Hot sector. If you don't have industrial real estate in your portfolio, you're going to have an opportunity to learn why it's something you should consider. And of course, we're going to talk to our good friend Jerry Hogenhout about taxes and about investing. It's that time of year again when we've got to start thinking about filing our returns and getting ready for that RSP season. The deadline's coming up at the end of this month, end of February, right? And we have Zack Snider. He's a real estate agent with Keller Williams, and he's going to talk to us about owning property in Costa Rica, of all places. One of the happiest places on the planet.
Very fitting, given the last week we've had, minus whatever. So
well, that's it. So people saw free vacation property in Costa Rica, and they register. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure we're literally going to be giving the keys to a condo, but you're going to see how you can actually enjoy a vacation property in Costa Rica and have a positive cash flow. Sounds good? Chaim, would you agree?
I think I'm done with the industrial. I'm going to Costa Rica.
He's
where do
there.
we sign up?
He's
go.
there.
Come on.
All right, excellent. So and Zack is remote via Zoom. So let's start off with our good friend Jerry. Jerry, what's the latest? Is there anything we need to know about filing to any new rules that we need to be considering?
There's probably not enough time to talk about all the new rules, so we won't bore you with everything, but there's certainly, we're back in tax season, back into our deadline-driven world. February 28th is coming up. That's a big deadline. That's for RSP season, as well as dividends. So many of our clients have corporations, and we have to figure out what dividends to give these people by the end of February. So that's not new, but that's a deadline we deal with every year, and it's a big one, probably the biggest. So we're very busy at this time of year dealing with that stuff. Not a whole lot of changes in the tax world as far as what people should know, but RSPs, I know we talk about that a lot. Through our presentations, I think I'm known as somebody that's not as favorable for RSPs, and that probably is the wrong slant. I just don't think RSPs should be utilized for retirement saving. I think RSPs should be utilized to save taxes and only taxes. So I think there's much better vehicles for retirement saving.
Okay, but how do you save? How do you save? I mean, isn't the idea that you're supposed to take them out when you're retired, or at least have a reduced income?
Well, in a perfect world, you would, put money into an RSP and save at a high tax rate and bring it out over your lifetime at a reduced rate. And if that's what you do, that works.
Right.
And I support that 100%. I'm somebody that's done probably 400 final death tax returns. I see what happens, the impact of RSPs on a final tax return. And probably half of those tax returns, if not more, we're sending 50% of that RSP to CRA.
Right.
That's not good. And that's just bad tax planning. So what other vehicle do we use? A corporation, in my world, is a fantastic vehicle to use as a retirement vehicle. Make your corporation, your RSP, whatever you want to call it, the vehicle to grow income, capital inside your corporation. There's so many ways we can take that money out of the corporation throughout your life. Much more tax favorable treatment than we would in an RSP. So Yeah, so I don't want to come across as being completely against RSP. It bothers me at this time of year where all the banks and all the financial institutes make you promote RSPs as the one and only vehicle to save for retirement. It's become too much of a sales processing vehicle as opposed to what I think it should be, which is a tax saving vehicle. We get to save tax going in, we got to pay tax going out. If we save more tax going in than we save than we pay going out, we win. But why save 20% tax going into an RSP and pay the same 20% going out or more? Save 20 going in, pay 30 going out. It makes no sense. Okay. So those things have to be factored in that decision making. Now, for the next 3 weeks, all we're going to hear is, tax RSP deadline. You have to put money into your RSP. So we're really being inundated with that thought process.
What about? I mean, there's some other registered opportunities for people too, right? I mean, are people taking advantage of TFSAs, for example?
Interesting.
Or IPPs, or there are different vehicles.
When you say different vehicles, so let's touch on those two things. TFSAs, they've hit our radar now as accountants and investment advisors, simply because the amounts that you can put in now is up to $90,000. Before they were quite low, and we really couldn't do much with that. But now they're up to $90,000. You can hold a mortgage inside of your TFSA. Mm-hmm. Private lending, 10 to 15%. You can earn that in a TFSA and pay no tax. That's pretty good. Okay, so they're on our radar now, and it starts to make sense from a cost benefit point of view. IPPs you mentioned. So once again, back to what I said, a corporation is a great vehicle to build up retirement income. Once we have significant growth inside of our corporation, a good way to utilize that capital is to put that money inside of an IPP.
Which stands for, what is that?
Individual pension plan. So it's just, without getting into too much detail, it's really creating your own pension plan. And we do that with, again, it's a good vehicle to use a corporation, that we use the money that's grown in the corporation. And we usually do that through what we call holding companies. So in a perfect world, you would have an operating company where you're running your business, you're earning your income, you're paying your 12% corporate tax, nice low corporate tax rate. And we earn 88 cent dollars. And when we earn that money, we don't want to keep it in our operating company. We want to flow it up. We do intercompany dividends. We get that money out of the operating company into the holding company. And we invest in anything that we want to invest in. We have options within that. So with a whole lot of money in there, we might want to use an IPP. Permanent corporately owned life policies. Fantastic tool to not only deal with estate taxes, build your intergenerational wealth, as well as very creative to earn tax-free income.
Okay, so there's a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big believer in the corporations as a way of building wealth. Can you talk to us about the personal real estate corporations too? Because I know you work with a lot of real estate agents. I work with them too. And a lot of them have recently, because it's only been in the last year and a half since they've been allowed to set up.
This is actually an interesting time that we're heading into February, because personal real estate corps, PREC, P-R-E-C, it's a gift. It's a tax gift to real estate agents. They've been allowed to incorporate. And what that means is we can channel their income, which normally would land on their personal tax returns. We can channel that through a corporation, pay the 12% tax, which is a very low tax rate, and save all kinds of money. Realtors are they're one of the last professions that have been able to utilize this vehicle, this ability to channel income through a corporation. So they were able to do that basically toward the end of 2020. So 2021 is the year where most of the agents are really seeing the full benefit of being able to channel that income through a PREC. And this timing is very interesting now, because by the end of February, as I mentioned earlier, is our deadline for dividends. We can channel anybody's income through a corporation And we can take that money out of the corporation through by way of a dividend. And an individual can take approximately $40,000 out of a corporation without paying a penny of tax by way of a dividend. And that's a very powerful tool. Also, for these people who, realtors, non-realtors, anybody that can flow income through a corp. The Canada pension that you pay on the income that you take out of a corp now has gone way up. It increased again January 1, 2022, to the point now you're paying like $7,000 of Canada pension to take some money out of a corporation. Now, but if we take it out of a corporation by way of a dividend, we pay zero Canada pension. So that's a $7,000 saving right off the hop. That's big. That's a lot of money. Now, with that said, if Canada pension is built on it's a pension plan that what you receive when you're 60 or 65 is based on what you put in. So if you take out dividends and don't pay Canada pension, yes, we're saving a lot of tax at this time, but we have to make sure we're still doing something to save for our future if it's not for the Canada pension. Canada pension, I shouldn't say this, but it is one of the, dare I say, biggest ripoffs. If we put money into Canada pension throughout our life, we would have accumulated well over $1 million in our Canada pension plan by the time we're 60 years old. What we get out of that Canada pension plan is a fraction of what we have put in and earned through our life. And I just had a personal experience where a friend of mine passed away, 64 years old, spent his entire life putting money into his Canada pension. So we would have had well over $1 million in there. He passes away 2 months before 65, didn't collect a penny out of his Canada pension. The estate got $2,500 death benefit, and guess where the rest of those millions go? Back to the government.
Yeah.
Big ripoff. So, these are things that we integrate into the overall financial planning. I'm not saying you shouldn't contribute to Canada pension, but I'm just saying there's different ways, better ways. The key is control. It really boils down to the money that you have, controlling it, and always looking at it from we all want to grow our assets and pass them on to our beneficiaries. So estate planning, huge discussion, ongoing, continuous, with all our strategies and tax planning. We have to also look at the estate implications of everything we do. And that's why, going back to the RSPs, that's one of the problems I have.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Jerry, as an accountant, you are pretty unique in what you do because you've been very interested in the investment business for a long time. And your company is Canadian Investment Services. Yep. So people can always talk to you about their investments and tax planning as well. Not just the tax returns. And I know you're a fan of private equity.
Very much so.
And you also are involved occasionally in different flips and so on. Do you have any new projects on the go that you wanted to tell us about?
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So we do our own real estate investments within Canadian Investment Services, which is my company. We don't always have projects on the go. We'll go to third-party providers, real estate investment providers, but we'll also create our own. Right now, we're working on. We got two developments on the go. One in Penetang, which is a very unique concept. So I'm working with the developer to create a. It's an interesting strategy. We call it a life lease. So we're developing 56 townhouses. Again, it's a life lease concept, which there's a couple of reasons for that. One, HST. It's not a new build. We can forego HST. But we also allow then people to get in at lower prices. So we basically have purchase prices at 100,000, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450. So however much money you put in, if you paid the full pop, you pay zero lease. But it allows somebody that might only have $100,000 to literally lease a brand new house for a much discounted price, and they make that up by paying a lease. So it's a great way for somebody that might not have the financial means, or just doesn't want to put all their resources into the purchase of a home. So it's unique. it's a unique angle on this. So we're shovel ready probably in 2 months, where we'll take a year to build those 56 units. And then we have in Midland, we have a over 200 home project. We've got the land. It'll take 2 years to get through all the municipal things, but those are projects that we're working on now, and we'll be bringing them out.
Okay, so always lots going on, and I know that you are you've always been a fan of REITs, real estate income trusts, and in particular residential REITs. I think that's a good segue into speaking with Chaim from Durham, Chaim Karpel, because Chaim's company has an industrial REIT. And, from a diversification standpoint, like the industrial sector has been on fire in the last couple of years. So maybe you can tell us about Chaim. Welcome, first of all.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
to our broadcast. Nice to have you here. Talk to us about your company. Talk to us about industrial real estate, and why should people have industrial real estate as part of their overall investment portfolio?
Sure. So thank you again for hosting me tonight. I work with Durham Capital, as you mentioned. We're an asset manager based in Calgary. We have a diversified portfolio. We're actually the operating arm for a family office. Our principal, Jay Simmons, also spent some time at Deloitte, but has been focused in private equity since the early 2000s. And the way Durham Capital operates is that we operate a number of different investments across land development, industrial real estate, energy, technology, and our most recent project is actually carbon credit funds. We're going to be starting to raise capital, buying credits, carbon credits. So it's kind of a unique play that's going to be pretty interesting moving forward based on a lot of the government legislation. But our land development project is also an interesting opportunity. We own 300 acres of land and a water license. Our lands are located in Alberta, which is an arid province. And the way you develop land anywhere is you need access to water. And because Alberta doesn't naturally have water like Ontario does, where we've got lakes everywhere, you actually have to go and purchase a water license. It used to be the government issued them, and then they had overissued them, and they created a moratorium on new water licenses. So the way you get water is by purchasing a water license. So very unique opportunity. So everything that we do within our organization is kind of be a little bit different or a little bit more nuanced than what everybody else is doing. So in 2012, so as I mentioned, Jay had come out of Deloitte's insolvency group and had his background in restructuring. In 2012, him and a couple other family offices bought a distressed portfolio of real estate assets, and they sold off the pieces they weren't interested in. And at the time, Jay kind of looked around commercial real estate and saw you've got downtown office towers, competing with pension funds, you've got hotels, you've got all kinds of operational issues. And he identified industrial. It's not a very sexy asset class, not a very sexy building. We're actually sitting in somewhat of an industrial building now. You have 4 walls of corrugated metal, maybe some cinder block and a flat roof. And there really isn't much glorious about the actual buildings themselves. But when he took a look at the asset class, there's a lot of attributes that he really liked about it that made it unique and different than some of the other commercial asset classes. So the first is that the tenants you're getting in these buildings are typically commercial tenants. They need to be in that geography, they need to be in that building, whether it's logistics, distribution, manufacturing. They're very often either a purpose-built facility, or they've put heavy machinery or millions of dollars of upgrades into that building to be in that building.
I'll just mention that we do have some slides as well.
Oh,
which you provided for us. So if people should see them in one of the windows, and they can pin those, and you can tell me if they can pin that particular slide while I'm speaking. And if you want to tell me how you want me to advance these.
Yeah, why don't you move ahead
here?
Move ahead a couple slides.
Okay. Keep going?
Yeah, go ahead. That's Bowater and Land. That's just an overview of our portfolio. So just a quick overview of our portfolio is we own 16 assets. So one of the great things about a REIT is that you could participate with a professional management team, have operations in place. and you get paid a distribution without having to get your hands dirty yourselves. And you could also invest using a registered plan. So I heard you don't love RRSPs, but if you have an RSP, it's better than sitting in cash. Should be investing it. Or if you have a TFSA or a LIRA, you getting the opportunity to get paid a distribution on a tax deferred basis is one of the benefits of being able to invest in real estate through a trust as opposed to a limited partnership or some other way. But so this slide here that you just pulled out, this is some of the attributes that are really unique to industrial real estate and why it's different than some of the other commercial asset classes. So, as I was mentioning, when you have industrial real estate, you've got high quality tenants. And so when we look at an asset, we're not just looking at a physical building. You're looking at who is the tenant, how strong of a balance sheet do they have, what industry are they in, what are they manufacturing, their distribution, how long have they been in the building, is it a sticky tenant? And we're really doing a lot of our due diligence on
Sticky tenant, that's an interesting term that I learned from one of your previous talks. So that means that they invest in equipment and other things, and what they would pay for their own rentals or something, right? And now they're kind of
What do they call
stuck.
it?
Sticky.
I call them sticky tenants. The reason, if you want to skip ahead, you can, but you don't. It's 3 slides ahead. There you go. One more. So you got lease terms. If you own an apartment building and you've got tenants, the typical lease term is about 6 to 12 months. So every 6 to 12 months, tenant leaves. You're fixing drywall. You're painting the walls. You have to have a maintenance team. You have to have a staff. You have a whole staff there. Commercial leases, in an office building or retail, anywhere between 3 and 5 years. Again, a similar dynamic. You're moving walls, you're changing configurations. Industrial real estate, you've got a tenant who's there for between 5 and 15 years. So you've got predictable, stable income. You've already done the due diligence. You know that they've got a strong balance sheet. They've been in the building for many years. And because they have the heavy machinery or they've put upgrades into the building, they're not inclined to want to move anywhere. They want to be in that geography. They want to be in that building. And one of the great aspects about industrial real estate are those long, predictable leases. So in Jay's portfolio, and kind of skipped over a little bit before, there's a lot of a lot more speculative type of investments associated
Again,
with Jay Simmons.
Jay Simmons, he's
The CEO of Durham
CEO,
Capital.
okay, yes.
In Durham Capital and in the portfolio that we've constructed, this is the boring part of it. This is the steady Eddie income generation portion of the portfolio. Some of the other things are a little bit more speculative or high octane. This is meant to be, I've got 16 buildings, I'm collecting my leases, I'm paying my mortgages, I'm paying my distributions, and we're putting in some value add. The buildings go up in value, the portfolio increases in value. So that's kind of the other aspect that you mentioned, besides the tenants being sticky. If you want to go back a couple slides, you can.
Yeah. This is a good one here.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch upon that. It's definitely been a hot asset class. But just to mention the other aspect of what's unique about industrial real estate, you kind of touched upon, is that we have what's called a triple net lease. That means that the tenant is responsible for the insurance, not the mortgage, excuse me, that's us, the taxes, and the physical upkeep, maintenance
right?
inside the building. We make sure that the HVAC is working and the pavement on the parking lot is good and there's a roof on the building. But any upgrades to the building, if the tenant wants to, they've got a big office, a big warehouse space and they want to put an office, go ahead, build 3 walls and you've got an office. That's up to you. You do whatever you like on the inside of the building. We'd actually, very often our general manager doesn't even go into the buildings unless he has permission in advance. So having that hands-off kind of approach to the management allows us to grow and scale the portfolio without having to incur all kinds of additional costs, more body count. As I mentioned, if you've got a multi-res apartment building and you want to acquire a second one, you need another on-site manager, you need another maintenance team. You have to grow and scale your costs associated with the building as well.
Okay, so sticky tenants, long-term leases, and they pay the TMI, the taxes manager. Now, this slide here, I like. This helps to illustrate, I think, how this asset class has been why is this asset class so hot now?
Yeah, so even prior to COVID, what we've been seeing, and has been, the e-commerce boom, the Amazon effect. Everybody is changing their shopping habits. It's been exacerbated, of course, during COVID, where we couldn't go shopping, we couldn't go to the mall and the supermarket. I don't know about everybody else here, but we've got packages arriving on our doorstep nearly daily at this point because they've made it so easy. And the logistics that allow this to happen are the truckers and industrial real estate. They go because last mile logistics, or the ability to get things from point A to point B as quickly as they currently do, requires facilities to do so. So there's, the demand was significant prior to COVID, and we saw a lot of the pension funds and family offices, they are shifting their buying habits out of some of the other asset classes. But since COVID, we've seen just significant boom in the demand for the asset class, and that's really what you're seeing on this chart. Is industrial sales have just been, outpacing all the other asset classes.
Yeah, I just keep shaking my head like yes, yes, yes for everything you're saying, because I've seen it too in the industrial. I remember way back in my younger days at Deloitte, I remember we had this client, and they were an industrial, they had like 25 employees in a big industrial unit, and the client was making lots of money, and I'm like, why don't you buy a place? Why are you renting? He goes, I never want to own, I just want to rent. Landlord looks after everything, don't want to tie up my capital. And I remember that, and so many other businesses have the same mindset, that they're just so happy to rent industrial space. They don't want to buy, they just want to rent. It's a cost of doing business. Anything goes wrong, landlord fixes it. So I certainly share everything you're saying with these industrial, we all look at, like, when we invest money, there's two major components. One is the rate of return we're trying to get, and the other is the protection of capital. And in my opinion, nothing better than real estate, some form of real estate, good real estate. There's good real estate and bad real estate, but if you have some good real estate to protect your capital, that's a big component of the investment. So, again, everything you're saying is so true. I own an apartment building. I know exactly what you're saying. We got to pay this, we got to do that, we got to do so much stuff. Industrial, there's four walls and away you go do your thing. I have a client in Guelph. They have 30 employees. They are trying to find industrial space. They cannot find it. It's just not, there's such a demand for this industrial space now. Across
the country, vacancy rates have just gone real low, which is, when there's no vacancy, price per square foot has been just going up and up everywhere. Yeah. But something you mentioned is good real estate. And, we can touch upon inflation a little bit. I'm sure you've got more to comment about it, but certainly hard assets like good real estate are one of those things that people should be looking at and considering in their, in their investment portfolio, because, if everything is going to go up in price, real estate is one of those things that goes up with it.
Well, I think most people, they're always attracted to the rate of return, but I always remind them, like, let's make sure let's reverse that. Most investment advisors, we call it chasing returns. They're like, hey, we can make you this much money without the proper protection of capital, where I like to turn that around and go, let's have capital protection first. Let's make sure we're comfortable where our money is invested as far as the protection of our capital. Then let's go try to find a reasonable rate of return that we can.
Risk-adjusted return. That's it. I tell that to advisors and investors all the time. When you compare different opportunities that are in front of you, so this one's going to pay you 8%, this one's going to pay you 9%, whatever, A, what's the tax efficiency, or how is it structured? And then B, is it a risk-adjusted return? Is it secured against buildings or leases, or is it unsecured? Because you get unsecured.
So talk to us a little bit about the tax implications, right? Because with a lot of the REITs that are around, like, it's not interest income, it has a preferred tax treatment, right? So part of the return, is that considered return on capital? Do you want to talk to us about that?
I think you got to ask the tax guy about
tax.
Okay,
well, listen,
My favorite
okay, Jerry,
topic,
but it is considered return on capital. A part of the return, or?
Because we're acquiring assets and refinancing, a significant portion of our distributions would be return of capital.
And then we'll get to talking about what those distributions, you'll give people an opportunity to have an idea of what kind of returns they can expect. But Jerry, talk to us about return on capital. What does that mean?
Return on capital. So it's the best thing in the world. It's receiving money that is non-taxable. Now, how do they do that? Because normally when you invest money, you think of, I'm going to either earn interest or dividends or capital gain. There's a fourth one, and it's called return of capital. How do they do it? They do it by, it only happens in the real estate world where we can depreciate. So keep it simple. You buy a building and where the Income Tax Act allows us to depreciate that building. And by depreciating that building inside of the fund, we reduce the income hypothetically to zero. That means any distribution we make is non-taxable. Now that sounds a little confusing, and it is behind the scenes, but what it really means in simple terms is you can receive money tax-free, okay, tax-free. Now when we start doing financial planning and estate planning and all this stuff, earning income tax-free that does not hit your personal tax return or corporate tax return is a beautiful thing. So we get them in residential REITs, we get them in industrial REITs. It's a fantastic planning tool. So people need to know about this return of capital. I'm a real advocate of it, and I know Durham.
So tax-free, I mean, it's treated as capital gains, right? You eventually have to pay tax on it?
So what happens is, keep it simple, you put $100,000 into one of these investments and you make 10%. Keep it real simple, okay? So you get $10,000 tax-free, okay? You've paid 100 grand for the investment. You've received 10,000 tax-free, which means your adjusted cost base for tax purposes drops by that 10, so it's 90. So if you sold the same investment for 100,000 again, now you got to pay tax on that 10,000 that you've received tax-free, but now it's a capital gain,
Right.
which means you're saving half of that money is completely tax-free. Plus, it's a deferral mechanism.
Okay,
we
so
can
yeah.
continue to receive the money tax-free.
Right.
When we choose to sell, we can plan when that time is right. Half of our gain is going to be completely tax-free, and the other half will be taxable.
Okay, so, when you compare different investments, like a mortgage investment as an example, it's all interest income, which is the worst. I'm a mortgage broker, you'd think I'd be promoting mortgage investments only, but you can also have you can also keep the interest bearing if you have a mortgage investment. Maybe that could be something that's either in your RSP or your TFSA, right? And then if you have a REIT, you could keep that outside.
Yeah, so the type of income that we earn from our investments would dictate where we hold those investments. Do we hold it in a registered plan, an RSP, a TFSA, in a corporation? Do we hold it outside, open money outside of? So you're 100% correct. The type of income we earn, but also on your point, just because mortgage interest is 100% taxable as interest income doesn't mean it's not good. Private mortgage lending is an awesome way to invest your money.
For sure. There was something else I wanted to mention. I've heard about these ghost kitchens. I don't know how prevalent these are, but this idea where, everybody's been ordering food on Uber Eats. You just assume the food's coming from the restaurant. What they've started doing is they've started creating kitchens in certain areas where restaurants can share kitchen, and the food could be coming from there. So that's another sway towards industrial, and unfortunately, not great for the retail. But we'll see what happens with retail real estate in the future. Any projections?
Not all retail is created equal. I think you're going to find different usages for, say, a place like the Yorkdale Mall versus your corner, strip plaza. I think the corner strip plaza, certainly those that are grocery anchored or Shoppers Drug Mart, they'll be sustainable for the long term.
Yeah.
People always need to get haircuts or get their nails done. It's going to be some of those bigger retail places that are going to have to somewhat think about or reinvent how exactly they utilize their space. I was in the Yorkdale Mall recently, and what used to be a Microsoft store is now a Nissan. Not a dealership, because you can't buy the car, but you could go in there, I think you could test drive, and then they refer you out to a dealership. But now we see, cars are, I think Tesla started that trend. They were selling their cars. But we're going to see, I think, a big shift in how traditional retail looks.
There's a lot of shifts. You drive around today coming into Toronto, I'm seeing some Starbucks that closed down. You typically didn't see that. There was a Starbucks up at Bathurst and Steeles area that, is a landmark, right? So you see some pretty dramatic
I'm a little
changes in
leery on the
things.
commercial
Bulk barn.
real estate, I mean, the paper pushing industry, that I'm in and you're in and like we're all in the paper pushing industry. I mean, we can do so much now in a 10 by 10 office that we don't really need all that
Yeah.
space. But so the retail front, same with the food. I mean, lots of us have learned how to order our food in through Uber now. We didn't do this before COVID. So the world is changing and we have to be aware of that as we make investment decisions.
Yeah. Gents, do you want to see if there's any questions that, because we can't see the comments? And also, Chaim, is there any other slides in particular that we want to touch on before we move over to bring Zach into the conversation?
Somebody's making a
We
comment,
have a comment. The chair of
Kitchen. Interesting.
is marketing director. Oh, Ghost Kitchens.
You're
Small world.
bang on. I have clients. They are chefs, and they have their outlets, but they also have created a production kitchen it's an industrial unit, and they have their production kitchen out of there.
Yeah, well, like I was mentioning, Bulk Barn, right?
Yeah.
Up in Wasaga Beach, the Bulk Barn closed. I mean, I still do love that place, and I'm very disappointed. So I got to get in there and get a pound of milk duds before it's too late. But you think about it, like, that's a place where everyone's going in, salad bars, things like that. What's that Chinese food place that the Mandarin, right? I mean,
Mandarin.
nowadays, right, with the whole
Starbucks.
COVID effect, suddenly the buffet is not what it used to be.
Even when you go to
people's
Starbucks
minds,
now, you
right?
can't pour your own milk or put in your own
That's
sugar.
right.
That's
right.
done away with all the self-help service bars.
Yeah, it's a very different experience now, the retail experience. I find that retail stores even the ones, the Starbucks, Tim Hortons, their whole approach to the business has changed. Went out last night for dinner with my wife. We were sitting in a restaurant. I mean, I won't mention the name of the restaurant. They were at 100% capacity. I mean, you're supposed to be 50. They were at 100% capacity. We were waiting and waiting. It took a half an hour, and they brought us cold soup. We got up and we walked out. But the point is that it's become a remote. Like if you from the time we ordered, we could have ordered from our hotel. The food would have arrived sooner with the Uber Eats than going into the restaurant. I was into Tim Hortons, Starbucks. They don't smile at you anymore. They just hand your. I was really annoyed because I saw the drive-thrus getting service. And they wouldn't give me even a hash brown because I was in the store.
Yeah.
But the drive-through, no problem. Like I should have gone through in my car, but I wanted to go out. I wanted to see people, and like be in a social environment. And things have really changed dramatically.
The pandemic has changed social interactions, and the whole retail landscape is. I mean, it's the service business, right? And if you can't engage people the way you used to, and people haven't really learned the new terms of engagement, I think.
That's right. It's a new world. Was there anything else that we wanted to touch on here? I know we've got a few more slides, but
I could talk about the investment, like just.
Yeah. Tell us about the investment.
So move a couple slides down. So is that
how far?
This one's
here?
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. So why do you want to invest in a REIT? I mentioned before, there's lots of different types of REITs, but a REIT structure itself, besides the tax efficiency of being able to use a trust, allows you to participate with a management team that knows what they're doing. In our case, it also has skin in the game. But something that's unique about industrial real estate, so if you and a couple friends went out and you bought a duplex, you bought a sixplex apartment building, you could manage it pretty efficiently on your own. You want to buy 2 of those or 3 of those, it scales okay. One of the challenges with industrial real estate, predominantly the buildings have single tenants in them. If that tenant ups and leaves, you're not collecting rent anymore. So you really want to have diversification. Having an existing portfolio that spits out reliable payment without having to get your hands dirty is one of the ways that you're getting a benefit of participating with the REIT. So you're getting the experience of the management team. You got the alignment piece where they've got skin in the game, so they're incented to make sure that the deal is working out and the buildings are well tenanted. Again, industrial itself is, besides the single tenant risk, they're also big price points. So an individual investor may not have the deep enough pockets or the relationships with banks to get financing. So again, you're getting that benefit of participation. And our fund, so just for investors who are interested, we pay a quarterly distribution. It's 6.5% on an annualized basis. It's distributed quarterly, and then there's an upside profit split. So 70% would go to the investors. So over the long term, we target about 8 to 12%, which again, risk-adjusted returns. You got the leases that are supporting that. Our current portfolio is 100% occupied, and we've got leases that stretch out way past 2025.
All right, and of course,
you make an interesting point there. Can you guys hear me on the screen? There's a really there's a really interesting parallel between what Jerry mentioned and that industrial real estate, although overlooked by so many people, it is, as you've said, such a huge wealth source. And you talked about the capital required. And that's probably why you need a REIT like yours to get involved, because there aren't a lot of individuals. It's just nice how what Gary's tenant had said about, I'm going to be a tenant because I don't want to worry about the building. You get the benefit of both worlds as an industrial landlord. And I think it's pretty neat to help you get in that space.
Exactly right.
Cool.
all right, good point, Zach. Thanks for that. So I think that's a good segue. Well, we have Zach on the screen. Let's have a chat. So talk to us, folks. You want more information? You can give me a call. You can give Jerry a call. Or you can give Chaim a call, and we'll help you out with that. So, but Zach. Zach, I saw a piece that he wrote about a free property in Costa Rica, and I called him up. I said, "Where's the keys?" I said, "I want the place." And but anyway, Zach's been involved with Costa Rica. He's owned real estate there for a number of years. He's bought and sold a number of properties in Costa Rica. He's also a local real estate agent. Based out of Burlington, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Zach, tell us about, if you would, tell us about your romance with Costa Rica, how you got involved, and what's the opportunity about?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me. Maybe it's just because I can't afford to buy an industrial building on my own that I had to go to Costa Rica where I could find some free stuff. But my story, it's a bit of a dream come true, really. It started back in 2010. I was in between careers at the time and really was looking for a holiday to step out of the corporate world and get involved in the family business and construction. And I was just traveling around for 3 weeks, really. And I was just looking for some fun in the sun. But I came home with a lot more than a tan. Really long story short, I came home with a loan in my first property, which morphed into a lot more over the years. And my eyes were very much tuned into what the vacation property rental market looks like. So we've talked a little bit about this model, you and I, David, about how to have a vacation home for free. And beyond the financial benefits that, thanks for getting rid of the echo there. Now it's perfect. Beyond the financial side of Costa Rica and how it's been a wonderful place to invest in, it's really changed the trajectory of my life, being that the people of Costa Rica are the happiest humans on the planet, and they make me the happiest guy around. So it's a pretty cool place to be.
That's awesome. And what's the concept of free vacation property? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. Oh, there's that echo again. It's pretty simple, really. So I've figured out a way to basically own real estate in Costa Rica.
Oh, okay. Zach, hang on a second.
Sure.
I'm trying to bring up I want to bring up your website while you're talking.
Sure.
But you have can you tell me your website again, please? Because I'm trying to open a document and I'm not on my regular computer here.
Sure.
What's the website? I'll bring it up on the screen.
Costa Rica Pacifico.com.
CostaRicaPacifico.com. Okay. Okay, you go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so really, this concept, vacation home for free, is really about having the ability to own real estate, enjoy real estate, use it, without really feeling like you're paying for it. So I'm very much involved in the short-term vacation market. So basically, people come from all over the world to enjoy Costa Rica as other tropical destinations. And having been a landlord for many years in Canada as well, typically with long-term tenants, I found that you can charge a lot more money per week than you can on a 4 times, monthly basis. So basically, the model is that it starts with finding a place that you love and you want to go and enjoy your own holidays in, and then figuring out how attractive is this to other people. So making it available for people's vacations, ensuring that you're bringing in the income to basically pay for the place and then some, it really does become, as we say, vacation home for free. I know that I drew up a little sample pro forma for you, which is an example of how it shows people how the metrics work in terms of how to acquire these places, even without your own funds, how to make sure that all of the costs are looked after by others, and even how to have an income where you're actually getting paid to own your own vacation home. So here it is here. My home away from home is in Cocoa Beach, Playas del Coco, Costa Rica. All right, this is 20 minutes from the Liberia airport. It's actually the closest main beach town to any airport in Costa Rica. And even still today, you can buy a 2-bedroom condo, walkable to the beach, for $150,000 or less. Now, these are all American prices. In Costa Rica, all the real estate trades in US. But if you take a look at what we have on the screen here, you can purchase a condo for $150,000. The short-term rental rates are approximately $1,000 a week in high season. You get $800 a week in the low season. That's about half in the year. And there's a few premium weeks where you get a lot more. Now, my experience is even better than this, but to be conservative, if you rent your place out 80% of the time in the high season and just 50% of the time in the low season, and you have those 3 premium weeks, you can generate $34,000 a year in rental income. Now, you need a property manager to make this happen. Through property management, you're going to pay a commission on the rentals and a monthly fee. So even when you discount the $8,000 that you'll pay someone else to do this all for you, kind of like that industrial real estate example of, you don't worry about what's inside. Well, rather than it being the tenant here, it's my property manager that does everything. You're still left with $26,000 a year of income. Once you pay your property taxes, insurance, and your utilities, you still are keeping over $20,000 a year in income. Now, you divide that income over the cost of this asset, you're actually, from an investor's cap rate perspective, you're generating more than 13%, which is unheard of locally. So when you think about a cash buyer, it's not a free vacation home. You can buy this place and have it paid off in 7 years. But here's the trick. If you own real estate in Canada, our cheapest source of money is heat locks. So I use home equity lines of credit all the time. You can borrow money from our banks here on existing assets at as little as prime. So today, less than 2.5%. So you can buy a condo in Costa Rica that, as far as the Costa Rican side thinks you're a cash buyer, you've actually borrowed that $150,000 from your bank. So it's not your own money. You're paying under $4,000 a year in interest on that money. And you do the math, there's still a lot to go around. So I kind of tacked on a few examples here of, buy yourself 4 flights a year and go and have a holiday every quarter in your own vacation home. And you're still getting paid nearly $13,000 a year as a privilege to own a property that you didn't pay for. So it seems like, I don't know, a surreal concept to own something for nothing. Really, we are taking advantage of the strong real estate market in Canada, and others that are coming from the States, for example, where you have assets to leverage. But you know, more than the property itself, I got to tell you, it's the people of Costa Rica that have me coming back time and time again. And it's a really magical place. If you haven't been, you got to go.
Thank you.
So you can flip back to the website if you want there, David, and you can show just some visuals there to give people a sense of what that looks like. And if anybody has any questions about, you know, how things work from a tax perspective as well, it's interesting to hear what Jerry, how he might get excited about that as well. And really, I boiled down three important stakeholders in making a vacation property happen, and really any foreign real estate investment. And three happens to be my lucky number. But really, all you need is three things to do this. You need a property manager. You need a good company locally that can be your eyes and ears when you're not there. Your property manager even pays your bills and looks after your administration, does your check-ins, your bookings. Of course, you need a local real estate agent. So even I myself, who spend a considerable amount of time in Costa Rica, I don't trade alone because I don't live there full time. So even I have a team there of local experts that it's very important. And the third thing is a lawyer. Like anywhere in, you know, in the world, you're not going to be closing a real estate transaction, you know, like a cowboy and just going in and signing the documents yourself. You need to make sure you have local representation. But with a property manager, a lawyer, and a local real estate agent, all of this is possible. I've been doing this for the last 12 years, and now we're even developing land. So, you know, our real estate has grown tremendously since 2010, and, you know, it's become our home away from home.
Me, please. Okay, Zach, thanks. So, yeah, I don't know if Jerry should talk about taxes. Do you know what the tax situation is in?
Yeah, no. 100%.
In Costa
I
Rica?
can touch on that, but I got
Okay.
a question, Zach. As far as ownership, do we get title either personally or corporately? I know in Mexico, there's some wonky things that it has to be owned by a Mexican lawyer. How's the ownership structure there?
Great question. No, it's very easy in Costa Rica. You can own personally or through a corporation. I own through corporations. I find benefits there, and a lawyer will set that up for you locally for as little as $1,000 in a couple days. And that corporation's registered to your Canadian passport. They're very friendly to foreigners owning real estate. There's no foreign investment tax. And you know, the difference between owning it corporately and personally, a few things come into the equation. It's how you do your taxes back home. Could be one element. You can sell a corporation rather than selling a property, and you can help your buyer save some land transfer tax. So that comes into it. We have different corporations for each property. We just separate it that way, makes it easier. And really, the capital gains tax is the element that we love the most. For many years, there was none, and now we pay 15%. But just to know that the only real tax that we talk about in investing, buying, and selling real estate there is a very small capital gains tax, and, you know, much less than what we're used to here.
I'll touch on the tax if you want.
Sure, Jerry.
So as Canadians, we can own properties anywhere in Costa Rica, for example. If it's personal use property, we don't have to disclose that on a tax return. If it's rental property, if it's business income, then we need to disclose anything over $100,000. That's just disclosing the asset. As far as income, as Canadian, we are taxed on residency, not so much citizenship. So if we're a Canadian resident, which we all are, then we have to report our worldwide income. So if we have a property in Costa Rica, if it's business related, if it's over $100,000, we have to disclose the asset or disclose the fact that we have more than $100,000 outside of Canada. And then we report any of the income that we earn, just like we would with a rental property in Canada. So it's really no different. We convert the currency to Canadian currency on a Canadian tax return. And really not much is different as far as how we treat an asset, say in Costa Rica, compared to an asset in Canada.
Okay. Did you comment, Zach, on medical care?
Yeah, I wrote about that a little bit in the article that you read. This is one of the few things that makes Costa Rica stand out, especially in Latin America. They're highly invested in their healthcare system and their education. So the medical care is fantastic. I mean, it's one thing as a tourist when you travel and your credit card gives you the best, coverage around, but even for locals, they have a wonderful public health system. They call it Caja, which is the equivalent to our OHIP, and they take good care of their people. So it's noted.
There's a number of comments in chat. Can we take a look at some of the comments, please? Maybe there's some further questions there. Okay, let's see. The chair protect Zach sound quality. You have mute feedback. Okay, I think we've addressed that. Good.
Website.
Yeah. So somebody couldn't see the slides. Well, okay.
Somebody's asking if Zach has a trusted property management.
Yeah, and again, somebody asked for the website. So maybe you want to give us the website again there.
Yeah, I'm just typing, just type this into the chat here. So the website here, www.Costa Rica Pacifico.com.
Okay, Zach,
yes.
you're also building some houses?
That's
in
right.
Costa Rica?
That's right.
That's right.
Sure. And to answer
That what
both
we're
questions.
Okay, because we actually have, is that what's on your website, these lots, or is that lot N2 and so on?
Yeah.
I do have some flyers I can bring up as well also. I'll bring those up too. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you scroll up on the screen there, David, or yeah, you can bring up whatever you like. To answer your question, yeah, I'm pretty lucky that I have a solid team down there. So for a property manager, it's actually my original investment partner, who's a friend of mine that was traveling with me 12 years ago in Costa Rica, that started investing with me, that became my property manager. And the long story short is, we were investing in this business together as Canadians for years until he got tired of the cold Canadian winter. So he moved there. And so my childhood friend is now a local. He's been there 6-7 years. And I helped him get started in the property management business. He got a job working with the company that we hired as our property manager. And eventually when she retired, he stepped up and he now runs one of the largest property management companies in town with over 130 clients. I'm just but a client of his in my own home away from home. So yes, I definitely have a great resource, highly recommended. And you were asking about the building. Well, we went on from the vacation rental world to say, okay, it's nice to have these properties that we can use and enjoy, but now that we have accumulated more wealth and continue to reinvest our earnings beyond the need to have so many vacation condos or even rental houses, we thought, why not do some development work? And I have a background in construction. So we started buying land and building and selling houses. And so it's been a really nice, as you're scrolling through these images here, I've had the pleasure to work on over a dozen properties now in just the last 5 years, really. And we started by doing one at a time, then two at a time, and now we actually have 3 projects on the go. So we're typically buying serviced lots, as Chaim mentioned, water that you don't find a lot of out west in Canada, similar in Costa Rica. So we buy properties that have water letters. Maybe one day we'll get involved in some early stage development, but we find the right service lots. And then we come in and design and build these beautiful homes that would cost 4 or 5 times the price to turn around locally. So we get the fun and excitement of building these ultra luxurious properties, selling them to people who are going to vacation there or possibly move. And we're earning some great returns along the way.
You were mentioning to me that, well, you said that it's 150,000 US is your starting price for, is that a condo, by the way, for 150,000? I would assume
Yeah.
it's a condo.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
could give you
are there
an element. Sorry, go ahead there, Dave. Oh, I was saying that, yes, to give you an overview of the landscape pricing, $150,000 will buy you a decent 2-bedroom condo walkable to the beach in our town. And those tend to be some of the best investments from an ROI standpoint, because where our home away from home is, for example, in the Pacifico development, a very luxurious gated development in town there, beautiful place to be, but a condo in Pacifico will be double the price, but it's not double the weekly rental rate. So for example, if $150,000 buys you one condo to rent for $1,000 a week, and it only costs $150 a month for the maintenance fees, a condo in Pacifico might be $300,000. You're only getting an extra 20–30% rental, and we pay almost $700 a month for all the fancy amenities. But condos from 150 to 300,000, houses, I would say probably from 500,000 to $1.5 million. We're building in the middle to upper middle class of the market there. So a lot of our specs are in the $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 range. We just feel that we don't want to be the most expensive show in town. So we're not building 6,000 square foot monsters and trying to sell them for Toronto prices. But we're building, say, 2,500 to 3,500 square foot homes, 3–4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. And what would be, say, $5 million in Toronto, $3 million in Burlington, $800,000 on an ocean view lot, looking at the beach, I think it's pretty exotic. So I think you're muted there, David. We can't hear you.
do we have any reason to be concerned with these condo corps and any rules that they may have about renting out to vacationers, to weekly stays and that kind of thing?
Great question. So I would say almost all of the condos in these beach towns understand the nature of the landscape and are very well accustomed to tourists, because the whole area loves tourists and needs them. What you would be looking out for is things like animals, so dogs, so travelers that want to come with pets. That's going to be a concern. When you get travelers that want to, abuse the space limitations, and they want to pack 8 people in a 1-bedroom condo because that's all they can afford, well, there's HOA rules against that, let alone, landlords that wouldn't be too happy to know that. But yeah, the most common thing that we find is pet restrictions. But we don't have limitations with the Airbnbs and the short-term rentals. That hasn't been an issue.
And approximately how many square feet are we talking about for 150,000 US? Is this like the size of a typical hotel room, would you say?
So those condos would probably be in the, say, 800 to 900 square foot range. So a smaller 2-bedroom condo.
Pretty significant size for that kind of a price.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they range. When you get up there in price, there are condos that can be close to 2,000 square feet, at the top end of that budget for double the price. But I guess you don't need much when you're on holiday, right? You don't need a lot of space to move around because you're out at the pool, you're out at the beach, you're walking around town. So people are still finding it very affordable to come to places like Costa Rica, as opposed to some American destinations like Florida that have just gotten so expensive in recent years.
Okay, so let's just, we've got Zach's contact information on the screen. I think it's some, are we able to bring it on the screen, or you've typed it into the comments anyway. So, so I just wanted to reiterate one or two things that you mentioned about from the financing perspective, because, in the last couple of years, especially if you do own a property, pretty much anywhere, but especially in Toronto or GTA, you've seen some pretty substantial price escalation. So there's a lot of opportunities for people, if they're so inclined, to take out equity and to use that equity to invest, to buy more properties, to buy properties in Costa Rica. Look, if you own $1 million, your typical property in Toronto is around $1 million. It's probably gone up by what, 20–30% just in the last year. There's your free condo. So if you wanted a free condo, I think we just found it for you, right? Wouldn't you agree, Hein?
Yeah, the market in Ontario certainly provides a little more cushion if you're considering diversifying your residential real estate holdings. Right. It sounds like a great solution.
Yeah, that and the fact that people are looking for opportunity. They're realizing, and me included, because this is one thing I learned through COVID, is that I don't have to be in Toronto to continue to run my business, which is why I moved to Wasaga Beach. But I'll tell you, during the months of December, January, February, I'm thinking Costa Rica might be more favorable to Wasaga Beach or even Toronto.
I think we're all thinking that way as we, especially as we see the equity in our houses increase. As you say, I mean, we've all, even if we've done nothing, if we own a house, we've created a lot of equity for ourselves. So we think about these things. And Zach, I wouldn't mind if you, on the banking down there, are they more welcoming? Our Canadian banks, we have stress tests, we have, the banks help us with our principal residence, maybe rental number one, and after that, they just don't want anything to do with us as far as helping us build a real estate portfolio. So, for example, the $150,000, if we come down there with 25% down, are they going to be very welcoming to give us a 75% mortgage, loan to value?
So banks are definitely friendly. That is an accurate word. Helpful is a little bit more difficult for foreigners. I find that their processes take a little bit longer, and we don't love their rates coming from our low interest rate environment. Right now, even to go through the process where, many foreigners don't bother, you'd be paying at least double the kind of mortgage rates that we're used to. So I haven't used Costa Rican traditional bank mortgages to finance what we do. And again, it's coming from the privileged low interest rate environment that we're in. But I will tell you, they are open for business. They will offer mortgages, and even more so, being a resident, which many people get their residency in Costa Rica, even just owning a vacation home, you only require $200,000 of net worth in the country. And as a resident, you'll have a much easier time getting financing if that's something that you want to do. And it's just an example of how Costa Rica has opened their arms to Canadians, saying, come on down. You can be a resident and still spend 6 months in a day in Canada to keep your OHIP.
Annual residency? Do they have annual residency there, or is it full-time residency? And I asked the question because I know I've moved people to the Bahamas where we have options, an annual residency. This is the qualification, full-time residency. These are the criteria for that. Is it similar there?
I'm not aware of the distinction. Like, we have requirements in Canada, as I said, 6 months in a day for OHIP being a typical example. Once you have your residency there, it's just about keeping up with that. I don't think it matters how much time you spend in or out of the country. What it does is for those who want to be there longer than 3 months, it allows them to be, because typically those who go down for a holiday and decide to stick around after 3 months, you're driving up to Nicaragua for the day to go get another visa on your passport to come back in. So really, it just gives you that privilege, but I don't believe there's a requirement to need to be in the country that long.
Yeah, I know a mortgage broker who is now based out of Costa Rica, and she's promoting mortgages for Canadians, but you know what she's promoting is to borrow money here on your residence in Canada, you know, via a HELOC or some other way. So I think that that's probably still is the best way is to borrow the money here. If you can, or you could go in with cash. So you've got options. So I'll just make one or two comments on mortgage rates as a mortgage broker, and then we'll look to wind things up. First of all, I just want to thank everybody who participated in tonight's event. Jerry and Chaim and Zach, thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out to Takor Ari, who brought his team of production guys together here today. So thanks, guys. I think you guys did a really great job. We appreciate it. Takor is also a property manager and a real estate investor himself. And so if you need assistance with managing your properties and growing your real estate portfolio, he's somebody who can help you. So we can also put you in touch with Takor. Don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us to learn more about some of the things we talked about tonight. We'd love to hear from you. I just want to mention, because the big question, you know, is Bank of Canada interest rates. I think the Bank of Canada chickened out last week. They met last week, and there was a lot of talk. Are they going to raise rates? Are they not going to raise rates? And my feeling is that, you know, they handed out all kinds of money during COVID, you know, to minimize the amount of complaining that people were going to do. Of course, to minimize the amount of pain, and a lot of that pain was real. But they've accumulated a whole lot of debt, and inflation is really coming on strong. So rates do need to go up, and although they didn't go up last week, they will almost certainly go up when they meet again in March. So, but, you know, Zach was talking about the HELOCs at prime rate. Prime is currently at 2.45. Don't forget, you can also borrow money on a variable rate mortgage at 1.5% rate or thereabouts now. And I still think variable is the way to go. It you know, tends to be in the long run, has been the right solution for people. But, you know, at the end of the day, I like to talk to every borrower and make sure that that they choose something that they're comfortable with, because some people just want to lock in and you know, not think about it. But the variable, the prime rate would have to go up quite a number of times, you know, until it's where fixed rates are. Fixed 5-year rates now are in the high 2s, and slightly higher for some self-employed borrowers. They don't mind paying a little extra if they're not being qualified on their tax returns. If you're, you know, for some self-employed people, that's an issue. So again, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. All of you out in Zoom land, we appreciate you being here. It was a lot of fun, and we look forward to and thank you for having us. See you next time, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care.